Fossil records indicate that Canis lupus was a highly adaptable species, with a geographic range that spanned multiple continents and ecological zones. Its presence is documented from the Arctic Circle to the arid regions of North America, a testament to a robust genetic makeup that allowed for successful colonization of diverse habitats. This wide distribution was not accidental. It was the result of sophisticated physiological traits that had been refined over millions of years of evolution. Central to the wolf's success was its pack structure, a social system rooted in a deep understanding of cooperative hunting and resource management. Unlike solitary predators, wolves utilized coordinated strategies to pursue and subdue large ungulates, such as the now extinct giant bison and the Pleistocene horse. This collaborative approach minimized risk and maximized caloric return, allowing wolf packs to sustain themselves in environments where food resources were often scarce and challenging to acquire. The complex vocalizations and body language used by pack members formed a communication system that enabled these intricate hunting behaviors, a key factor in their survival. From a genetic standpoint, the grey wolf of this era was a highly diverse species. Ancient DNA analysis has revealed a complex population history with multiple lineages coexisting and migrating across vast landscapes. This genetic fluidity contributed to their ability to adapt to changing climates and prey bases, providing a deep reservoir of traits that would later be passed on to their domesticated counterparts. The biological machinery that enabled their long-distance travel and rapid population growth was an evolutionary triumph, showcasing an organism perfectly calibrated for its role as an apex predator. But the secrets of the wolf-human interactions only begin there. What if the domestication of the dog was not a deliberate human act, but rather an act of combined coincidences? Was there the exact moment, a specific event that begun the domestication, and where did it happen? Why dogs were so important to prehistoric tribes, that their cohabitation with humans predates agricultural developments by thousands of years. Our own ancestors, operating within the same environmental pressures, were also a nomadic species, relying on cooperative hunting and a deep knowledge of their surroundings for survival. The lives of early humans and wolves were intrinsically linked by the presence of migrating game and the competition for prime hunting grounds. This shared ecological niche meant that encounters were inevitable, leading to a period of either direct conflict or, in certain circumstances, a cautious mutual acknowledgement. This dynamic, driven by the realities of survival, set the stage for an unprecedented shift in the relationship between two of the most formidable predators of the Ice Age. The trajectory of this coexistence would eventually lead one species on a path toward domestication, forever altering its destiny. Just a quick announcement. If you enjoy this video so far, please subscribe to our channel, as it motivates us to bring you a new story every evening. This is the only kind request tonight, and we won't bother you with it anymore until the very end of today's story. Let's get back to the video. The Late Pleistocene, roughly 40,000 to 15,000 years ago, was a period of stark environmental extremes and remarkable faunal diversity. The planet was defined by immense ice sheets covering the northern hemispheres, which in turn gave rise to vast, cold, open landscapes known as Mammoth Steppe. This was a world populated by a spectacular array of large mammals, including the woolly mammoth, woolly rhinoceros, and the Irish elk, all of which formed a rich and demanding ecosystem. The wolf's place in this biosphere was not merely that of a predator, but of a highly specialized carnivore whose biology was intricately linked to the abundance of these mega-herbivores. The success of Canis lupus was a product of millions of years of evolutionary refinement. The species possessed a remarkable metabolic efficiency that allowed it to travel vast distances in search of prey, and its physiological adaptations for cold climates, such as a dense double coat and a large body size, were critical for survival. The wolf's social intelligence, a hallmark of the species, was its most formidable tool. Packs operated as cooperative hunting units, using a division of labor and sophisticated communication to corner, exhaust, and ultimately overpower quarry that no solitary hunter could tackle. Concurrent with this wolf dominance, human hunter-gatherer populations were also expanding their presence across the globe. Archaeological evidence from this period confirms that human groups were highly nomadic, following the same migrating herds as the wolves. This created a consistent point of intersection and competition. The human toolkit, comprised of stone-tipped spears and a growing knowledge of fire and shelter, placed them in a direct, if not always violent, rivalry for resources. Both species were masters of their environment, each relying on deep-seated social bonds and a profound understanding of animal behavior to secure their place in the food chain. This shared ecological space became the crucible for a unique relationship. The constant proximity of human camps, with their consistent source of refuse and discarded bone, began to present an alternative survival strategy for certain wolves. Instead of expending massive amounts of energy on a difficult hunt, a cautious approach to a human settlement offered a low-risk, high-reward caloric opportunity. This simple, pragmatic choice by a few individual wolves initiated a process of coevolution that would, over many generations, lead to profound changes. The genetic and behavioral divergence from the wild wolf was not a single event, but a gradual, iterative process born out of the harsh realities of the Ice Age world. The lives of late Pleistocene wolves and early Homo sapiens were a remarkable study in ecological parallelism. Both were highly social, nomadic predators operating within a shared environment governed by the movements of large herbivores. The archaeological record shows a consistent overlap in their hunting and territorial ranges across the Eurasian landmass, from the plains of modern-day Russia to the caves of Western Europe. This ecological convergence meant that interactions, whether competitive or collaborative, were an inevitable part of their shared existence. Research at sites like Goyet Cave in Belgium has yielded direct evidence of this dynamic, with ancient wolf remains showing signs of human-inflicted injury, and vice versa. However, such evidence of conflict is balanced by the prevailing theory that both species often benefited from a state of mutual avoidance or, at times, opportunistic interaction. Human hunting parties could scavenge from a wolf pack's kill, while wolves could do the same after a human hunt. This was a pragmatic relationship dictated by the caloric demands of survival, not by sentiment. The human-wolf dynamic was also shaped by the unique attributes of each species. Humans possessed fire, a transformative technology that provided a defensive perimeter and allowed for the processing of food, making otherwise inedible parts of a carcass accessible. Wolves, on the other hand, had superior senses of smell and hearing, making them invaluable, albeit unintentional, sentinels. Their presence on the periphery of a human camp could serve as an early warning system against larger, more dangerous predators like cave bears or lions. This period of cautious coexistence created a subtle but significant selection pressure on both species. For humans, the constant presence of wolves on the periphery of their lives favored individuals who were adept at managing, rather than simply fighting, these animals. For the wolves, the opposite was true. Natural selection favored those with a less reactive, more tolerant temperament towards humans. The wolves that could suppress their instinctive fear and aggression in favor of a low-risk food source were the ones most likely to survive and reproduce. This physiological and behavioral divergence from their wild kin laid the essential foundation for domestication. The initial encounters between early humans and grey wolves were not a single historical event, but a series of intermittent, high-stakes interactions occurring across vast geographical areas. Paleoanthropological evidence suggests that these encounters were shaped by mutual curiosity and caution, as both species were social predators with sophisticated cognitive abilities. While archaeological sites reveal occasional evidence of conflict, such as human-inflicted injuries on wolf remains or wolf predation on early hominids, these incidents were likely exceptions rather than the norm. The more common reality was a state of cautious parallelism. The ecological niche occupied by both species created consistent opportunities for interaction. Both humans and wolves were pursuing the same prey animals, such as deer and bison. This overlap meant that human hunting parties would often find themselves in close proximity to wolf packs, either competing for a fresh kill or scavenging from the aftermath of a wolf hunt. This dynamic was not necessarily one of direct conflict. Human groups, with their technological advantage of tools and fire, could often assert dominance over a kill site, while wolves, with their superior numbers and speed, could easily outmaneuver humans in open pursuit. The key behavioral catalyst for the eventual domestication process was the gradual reduction of both fear and aggression in certain wolf populations. Genetic and behavioral studies on modern canids suggest that the wolves who were most successful in adapting to a human-adjacent lifestyle were those who possessed lower levels of flight response and a higher tolerance for novel stimuli, including the presence of humans. This natural selection process favored a specific behavioral profile, a proto-wolf that was less inclined to flee from human settlements and more willing to approach them for food scraps. This subtle shift in behavior created a positive feedback loop. Wolves that were less fearful of humans obtained more food, which in turn led to higher survival rates and more offspring. Over successive generations, this selection pressure accelerated, leading to a population of wolves that was genetically predisposed to a human-adjacent existence. These proto-dogs were not yet the companions we know today, but their presence around human camps offered a new, mutually beneficial dynamic. They consumed human waste, reducing the presence of pests and attracting other large predators, while their presence provided a new layer of security. This pragmatic, caloric-driven relationship was the first step on a journey that would ultimately lead to the dog's full integration into human society. The domestication of the wolf, while a profound development in both human and animal history, did not originate from a deliberate act of taming. It arose from a mutualistic relationship centered on an abundant new food source, human waste. The archaeological record shows that by the Late Pleistocene, human hunter-gatherer populations were creating temporary but significant refuse piles at their campsites. These middens, rich with discarded animal bones, remnants of hide, and organic detritus, constituted a stable, predictable, and low-energy foraging opportunity for opportunistic predators. This new ecological niche attracted a distinct cohort of wolves. Unlike their more skittish or aggressive kin, these individuals possessed a psychological profile that allowed them to approach the perimeters of human settlements without triggering a flight or fight response. This unique behavioral trait, a form of learned tolerance, gave them access to a caloric bounty that was far safer to acquire than actively hunting large, dangerous megafauna. This natural selection favored a population of proto-wolves that could read and react to human social cues, learning to navigate human presence without provoking hostility. Genetic analysis indicates that this self-selected group became reproductively isolated from the wider wild wolf population. This genetic bottleneck led to an accelerated process of evolutionary change. The proto-dog's physical form began to reflect their new diet, with fossilized remains showing reduced jaw and teeth size, consistent with a reliance on scraps rather than live prey. This physiological shift was not an abrupt event, but a gradual morphological change spanning thousands of years. The human-canine dynamic at this stage was purely pragmatic. The proto-dogs gained a reliable food supply, while human camps benefited from an olfactory and acoustic buffer. The presence of these canids acted as a deterrent to other, less tolerant carnivores, as their barking and pack behavior created a natural perimeter of security. This early, non-sentimental form of coexistence, based on a simple trade-off of risk for reward, created the indispensable biological and social conditions necessary for the more intimate relationships that would define the next stage of domestication. The psychological leap from cautious observation to active partnership began with the humble act of scavenging. The definitive chronology of canine domestication lies not in archaeological artifacts alone, but within the molecular blueprints of life itself. The field of archaeogenetics has meticulously traced the shared history of dogs and humans through the analysis of DNA extracted from both ancient remains and living populations. The deepest ancestral record is found in mitochondrial DNA, mitoDNA, a genetic marker passed down exclusively through the female line. Analysis of canine mtDNA has revealed a profound genetic bottleneck, pointing to a single domestication event from an extinct wolf population. This genetic divergence from wild wolves is a historical marker, providing a silent molecular timeline of a shared journey. Moving beyond maternal lineage, the study of nuclear DNA offers a broader and more detailed picture. Recent whole genome sequencing of modern dogs and ancient canine fossils has provided overwhelming evidence that all modern dog breeds descend from a common ancestor who lived in Eurasia, likely between 20,000 and 40,000 years ago. This data reveals a foundational genetic separation from all modern wild wolf populations, proving that dogs are not simply a subspecies of wolves, but a distinct biological lineage forged by coevolution with humans. The genetic evidence dispels any notion of multiple independent domestication events across different continents. Furthermore, molecular analysis has identified specific genes that were critical to this evolutionary shift. One of the most compelling discoveries is the suite of genes responsible for starch digestion. While wild wolves possess only 2 copies of the AMY2B gene, which produces an enzyme for breaking down starches, modern dogs have anywhere from 4 to 30 copies. This genetic adaptation is a direct biological response to a human diet rich in carbohydrates, particularly after the advent of agriculture. This molecular change is a hard, quantifiable fact that confirms a fundamental shift in the protodog's dietary habits and environment. The ability to extract and sequence ancient DNA has been a revolutionary development in this field. DNA samples from archaeological finds, such as a 35,000-year-old wolf from Siberia and a 14,000-year-old dog from Germany, have allowed scientists to directly compare the genetic makeup of ancestral canids to their modern descendants. This direct evidence of a common ancestry provides an irrefutable record of a shared journey through the last ice age, confirming a deep and ancient relationship. The molecular evidence, with its quantifiable data on genetic markers and evolutionary timelines, provides a powerful and objective record of how the wolf became our companion. The notion of humans intentionally raising wolf pups is a foundational and intuitive hypothesis for how domestication began. This theory, often romanticized in popular culture, proposes a direct, deliberate act. Early hunter-gatherers would find a wolf den, capture the young, and hand-rear them. The assumption is that by nurturing these wild animals from an early age, a bond would form that would lead to their integration into human society. This perspective, however, faces significant challenges rooted in both biology and historical context. The primary obstacle to this theory is the fundamental distinction between taming and domestication. Taming refers to the conditioning of an individual animal to tolerate human contact, but this behavioral change is not hereditary. A hand-raised wolf pup, despite a strong bond with its human caregivers, retains the complex, hardwired instincts of its species. As it matures, its innate behavior serves powerful prey drive, a need to establish a pack hierarchy, and a natural fear of novel stimuli would inevitably surface. These behavioral traits are incompatible with cohabitation in a cooperative human group, particularly in an era of constant movement and resource scarcity. The risk of aggression toward human children or livestock, and the energy required to contain and feed a growing wild predator, would have been prohibitive for a nomadic population focused on survival. Furthermore, a significant body of evidence suggests that the key behavioral traits of domestic dogs, such as the ability to interpret human-pointing gestures or to maintain eye contact, are not present in wolves, regardless of how they are raised. These traits, which are crucial for the human-canine partnership, are the result of a long, multi-generational process of selective breeding, not a simple act of taming. Had humans captured and raised wolf pups, they would have ended up with a powerful, unpredictable animal that could not effectively communicate or work with them in the ways that a true domesticate can. This hypothesis also fails to account for the scale of the domestication event. The formation of a new biological lineage requires a sustained, large-scale breeding program, a concept that is anachronistic for the late Pleistocene. The survival of an entire species would not have been reliant on the success of isolated individual acts of taming. Instead, the evidence points to a much more complex and indirect process. While the idea of a human nurturing a wolf pup is compelling, the scientific and historical record indicates that this was not the primary mechanism by which the dog became our companion. The strategic use of fire by early humans fundamentally altered the ecological dynamics of the late Pleistocene and created a new nexus for interspecies contact. As hunter-gatherers began to rely on fire for warmth, protection, and cooking, their encampments became distinct thermal and visual anomalies in the cold, dark landscape. These campfires, while a deterrent to most predators, also created a new kind of attractor, a beacon of light and heat that drew in the most daring of the proto-wolves. The scent of cooking meat and the warmth radiating from the flames provided a powerful incentive for these animals to overcome their natural fear of human presence. This deliberate use of fire by humans introduced a new layer of selective pressure on the wolf population. The wolves that could suppress their instinctive flight response to the sight of fire were the same individuals who could approach human camps and access the caloric-rich refuse found in the middens. Over generations, this environmental and behavioral pressure led to the proliferation of a specific lineage of canids, those whose nervous systems were less reactive to the stimuli of human activity. This physiological change, a reduction in the adrenaline and cortisol response, was a biological prerequisite for the cohabitation that would follow. Archaeological evidence from sites such as the Upper Paleolithic remains in Europe and the Siberian Arctic provides a historical record of this shift. The commingling of human and proto-dog remains at these sites, suggests a relationship that was no longer based on mere opportunism, but on a more stable coexistence. The presence of proto-dog remains in close proximity to hearths and human burials indicates a new level of trust and integration. The campfire's glow also provided a distinct advantage to the humans. The presence of proto-dogs on the periphery of the camp served as a biological alarm system, as their superior senses would detect the approach of rival human tribes or larger predators long before human sentinels could. This early warning capability provided a powerful incentive for humans to tolerate the presence of these scavengers, even if the relationship was not yet one of active partnership. The campfire, initially a tool for human survival, became the silent catalyst for the first great interspecies alliance. The evolution of the human-canine relationship from a state of pragmatic coexistence to one of incipient trust was a gradual but critical development. This transition was marked by a fundamental behavioral shift in the proto-wolves, moving from a cautious tolerance of human activity to an active seeking of human presence. This was not a conscious choice made by a single wolf, but a cumulative behavioral adaptation across multiple generations, driven by the consistent and reliable benefits of associating with human encampments. Archaeological and anthropological studies indicate that the first proto-dogs began to demonstrate a new level of comfort around human populations. Evidence from sites such as the ancient burial grounds in Europe and Asia shows that these animals were no longer just on the periphery of human activity, but were being interred alongside humans. The Bonn Oberkassel burial site, for instance, dating back approximately 14,200 years, provides a powerful historical snapshot of this new relationship. The remains of a man, a woman, and a dog were found together, suggesting a profound and personal bond that transcends a simple scavenger-human dynamic. The dog's remains were positioned in a way that suggests it was a companion, not merely a discarded animal. This nascent trust was not without its limits. The relationship remained tenuous and was likely based on a simple transactional understanding. The proto-dog received food and a degree of protection, and in return provided an early warning system and a cleaner camp. This was not a partnership based on shared affection, but one born of mutual advantage. The proto-dog's innate social intelligence, a trait honed by their pack-based ancestry, allowed them to recognize and adapt to the social structures of human groups, a critical step that was not possible for other large predators. This period also witnessed the first instances of human intervention in the proto-dog's life cycle. While there is no evidence of widespread selective breeding, it is plausible that humans may have begun to favor and tolerate the more docile individuals, perhaps feeding them more consistently or allowing them closer access to the camp's perimeter. This subtle selection, over centuries, would have reinforced the behavioral traits that were a prerequisite for eventual domestication. This slow-moving shift from wary coexistence to a rudimentary advantageous trust was the next essential step in a millennia-long process. The transition from a utilitarian coexistence to a profound emotional bond is substantiated by a unique body of archaeological evidence. While most of the early proto-dog remains are found in refuse middens, a distinct and powerful subset of finds indicates a new symbolic relationship. The most compelling of these is the Bonn Oberkassel burial, an Upper Paleolithic site in Germany dating to approximately 14,200 years ago. The discovery of a man, a woman, and a dog interred together in a single grave provides the earliest unambiguous evidence of a deep human-canine bond. The dog's remains were not merely discarded, they were placed in a deliberate, ritualistic manner within the burial, suggesting its status as a valued companion, not just a resource. This specific find predates the advent of agriculture and settled villages, placing the origins of this intimate relationship firmly within the nomadic hunter-gatherer era. The presence of a dog in such a burial implies its social and spiritual importance to the group. It signifies a cognitive shift in how humans perceived these animals, from a pragmatic resource to a subject of reverence and affection. The act of burying a dog with humans is a powerful historical fact, indicating a belief in a shared afterlife and a bond that transcended mere utility. Further archaeological finds corroborate this shift. At other Paleolithic sites, isolated dog burials have been uncovered, with some remains showing evidence of illness or injury that was tended to by humans. The practice of caring for a sick or injured animal is a clear historical indicator of an emotional investment that goes beyond simple utility. This behavior, which is not found in other interspecies relationships of the time, suggests that the human-canine bond was unique in its emotional depth. This evidence collectively demonstrates a historical moment where the transactional relationship of the past began to give way to something more profound. The proto-dog's social intelligence, a trait honed by their pack ancestry, allowed them to integrate into human social structures. Humans, in turn, began to recognize and value these animals not just for their practical contributions, but for their companionship. The archaeological record, particularly through atypical burial sites, provides a tangible and irrefutable timeline for this new and unique friendship. It was a cognitive and emotional revolution that laid the groundwork for the future of both species. The domestication of the wolf was a process of natural selection that inadvertently favored a specific suite of behavioral and physiological traits. This process, often referred to as the survival of the friendliest, did not require a conscious human breeding program, but rather a symbiotic feedback loop. The wolves that were most successful in this new ecological niche were those with lower aggression and a higher tolerance for human presence. These traits, which are a direct contrast to the flight or fight instincts of their wild counterparts, were a crucial biological prerequisite for cohabitation. Genetic research provides compelling evidence for this selection process. Studies on modern dogs and ancient proto-dog remains have identified specific genes associated with aggression and fear response. These genes, when compared to those of wild wolves, show a distinct divergence, indicating a strong selective pressure against the traits that would make a wolf dangerous to humans. Furthermore, this process of self-domestication also led to a series of physical changes, including a smaller brain size, less pronounced facial features, and a reduction in overall body mass. These physical alterations, known as domestication syndrome, are directly linked to a decrease in adrenaline and stress hormones, which were no longer as necessary in a human-adjacent environment. This evolutionary path created a new kind of canid. These proto-dogs were not tamed wolves, but a distinct biological lineage with a genetic predisposition for a lower fear threshold. Their willingness to approach human camps and tolerate proximity to humans gave them a profound survival advantage. They were less likely to die from starvation or injury, and were also afforded a degree of protection from other predators. This passive selection for a less reactive temperament was the primary driver of the domestication process, far more significant than any deliberate human intervention. This biological change was not instantaneous, but occurred over hundreds of generations, with each successive generation of friendlier wolves having a higher probability of survival and reproduction. The result was a population of canids that were not only psychologically different from wild wolves, but were also physically distinct. The survival of the friendliest was a powerful evolutionary engine that laid the groundwork for a partnership that would ultimately change the destiny of both species. The dietary shift from a purely carnivorous diet to one supplemented by human refuse was a critical factor in the domestication of the wolf. driving both physical and genetic changes. As proto-wolves began to scavenge at the edges of human camps, their food source transitioned from the raw meat and bones of wild animals to a wider array of materials, including cooked meat scraps, bone marrow, and discarded plant matter. This new diet, which was fundamentally different from that of their wild counterparts, initiated a process of physiological and genetic adaptation. Molecular biology provides the most compelling evidence for this change. The analysis of modern dog genomes has revealed a specific and profound evolutionary adaptation, an increase in the number of copies of the AMY2B gene. This gene is responsible for producing amylase, a key enzyme for the digestion of starch. While wild wolves possess only 2 copies of this gene, modern dogs can have a range of 4 to 30 copies. This genetic variation is a direct biological response to a human diet that became increasingly rich in carbohydrates, particularly after the advent of agriculture, which relied on grains and starches. The increased production of amylase allowed proto-dogs to efficiently extract energy from plant-based foods, giving them a survival advantage over wolves who remained obligate carnivores. Furthermore, the physical structure of the proto-dog's digestive system underwent a change. Archaeological remains show that the digestive tract began to shorten, and stomach capacity was reduced, adaptations consistent with a diet that was easier to process and required less time for digestion. The reliance on cooked food also reduced the need for the powerful jaw muscles and large teeth necessary to tear raw meat from a carcass. This is reflected in the more gracile skull and dental structures found in ancient dog remains when compared to those of contemporary wolves. This dietary evolution was not a conscious choice, but a consequence of ecological opportunity. The proto-dogs that were genetically equipped to handle a more varied diet were the ones that thrived in the human-adjacent environment. This physiological and genetic specialization cemented their divergence from their wild ancestors and set them on a path toward full integration into human society, where they could fulfill new roles that were not possible for an obligate carnivore. The emergence of the proto-dog represents a fundamental evolutionary divergence from its wolf ancestors, marked by a series of quantifiable behavioral and physiological changes. This new kind of canid was not merely a tamed wolf, but a distinct lineage, shaped by the selective pressures of a human-adjacent existence. The primary behavioral shift was a reduced flight distance and a heightened tolerance for human presence. Unlike wild wolves that would flee from the sight or sound of a human, these animals began to linger on the periphery of camps, a trait that directly correlated with their survival and reproductive success. This selection for a less reactive temperament created a population that was psychologically receptive to closer human contact. Physiologically, the proto-dog began to show a number of key changes. Archaeological remains from the Upper Paleolithic, particularly from sites in Eurasia, indicate a gracilization of the skeleton. The skulls became smaller and the snouts shorter, a morphological shift that reflects a decreased reliance on powerful jaw muscles and larger teeth for hunting. Their overall body size also became smaller and more compact than that of their wild wolf relatives, a change consistent with a diet of scavenged scraps and a lifestyle with less strenuous long-distance pursuit. Another defining trait of the protodog was its altered social behavior. Unlike the highly structured hierarchical pack dynamics of wolves, protodogs began to exhibit a more flexible social intelligence. They learned to interpret a new set of cues, including human body language and vocalizations. This cognitive flexibility allowed them to navigate the complexities of human social groups, a trait that was a prerequisite for their eventual integration. This new creature, the protodog, was a transitional form. It was neither a wild wolf nor a modern dog. It lacked the specialized physical and behavioral traits that would define later dog breeds, such as a strong herding instinct or a complete lack of predatory aggression. It was an opportunistic co-inhabitant, a scavenger that had begun a deep evolutionary journey towards a mutualistic relationship with humans. The protodog was the living, breathing manifestation of the genetic and behavioral changes that were taking place, a tangible link between a wild past and a domesticated future. The early coexistence between humans and proto-dogs was cemented by a crucial pragmatic benefit to the human population, the provision of an invaluable early warning system. While humans possessed fire and tools, their senses of hearing and smell were far inferior to those of their canid counterparts. The proto-dog's ancestral traits are superior sense of smell, capable of detecting intruders from great distances, and an acute sense of hearing made them natural sentinels. Their presence around the camp's periphery, initially for scavenging, became a source of passive security against both animal and human threats. This behavior, rooted in their territorial instincts, provided a new layer of protection to the human population. The proto-dog's tendency to bark or growl at the approach of unfamiliar individuals or large predators served as an immediate alert to the sleeping or preoccupied human inhabitants. This involuntary service was a significant contribution to the camp's safety, and over time likely encouraged humans to tolerate their presence more readily. The protodog's alarm call, whether directed at a rival human tribe or a lurking carnivore, was a signal of danger that humans learned to recognize and rely upon. The evolution of the protodog's bark is a key historical fact in this narrative. While wild wolves communicate primarily through howls, which are used for long-distance pack communication, the domestic dog's bark is a specialized form of vocalization used for warning and territorial defense. This shift from howling to barking is a direct result of coevolution with humans. In a human-adjacent environment, a loud, sharp vocalization was a more effective way to alert a human group to immediate danger. The bark became a defining characteristic of the protodog and a vital tool in the mutualistic relationship that was developing. This security benefit was not a result of human training, but a natural consequence of the protodog's inherent biology. The animals that were most successful at this role are those that were both alert and less inclined to flee were the same individuals that were thriving in the scavenger's niche. The security they provided was an unwritten pact, a transactional agreement that benefited both sides. The proto-dog gained access to food and shelter, and in return, its keen senses provided a critical defense mechanism against the dangers of the Paleolithic world. The formalization of the protodog's role as a protector marks a pivotal point in the domestication narrative. This function was not the result of deliberate human training, but a natural extension of the animal's inherent territorial instincts. As proto-dogs became more integrated into the human social sphere, their established presence around the perimeters of camps became a de facto security measure. Archaeological and behavioral evidence supports the theory that these canids, whether by day or by night, were the primary alert system against a variety of external threats. These sentinel dogs, sleeping on the outskirts of human encampments, provided a critical layer of passive defense. Their superior auditory and olfactory senses allowed them to detect the approach of rival human groups or large carnivores long before a human could. Their vocalizations, a mix of growls and barks, served as an immediate, clear signal of danger. This early warning was a profound evolutionary advantage for human groups, allowing them valuable time to prepare for a confrontation, a flight, or a defensive strategy. The protection offered by these canids was not a one-time event, but a consistent, night after night, contribution to human survival. This symbiotic relationship was further reinforced by the protodog's aversive qualities. While other carnivores were drawn to human waste and activity, the presence of a pack of these protodogs acted as a deterrent. Their collective barking and territorial displays were enough to ward off most rival predators, such as hyenas or large felines. In essence, the human camp was afforded a dual benefit: a cleaner environment and a more secure one, all provided at no significant cost. This role as a sentinel was a key factor in the protodog's social and physical integration. The humans, recognizing the immense value of this service, would have been more inclined to tolerate their presence, perhaps even providing them with more consistent access to food scraps. This feedback loop of mutual benefit accelerated the selective pressures that were already at play, favoring the survival and reproduction of the most alert and least aggressive individuals. The dog's first formal role was not as a hunter or companion, but as a watchful guardian on the threshold of our home. The physical and behavioral traits that distinguish dogs from wolves are a direct consequence of a process known as neoteny, the retention of juvenile characteristics into adulthood. This phenomenon is a hallmark of domestication and provides a clear biological marker of the divergence of dogs from their wild ancestors. The physiological and morphological changes associated with neoteny include a more rounded skull, a less pronounced snout, and a reduction in both brain size and tooth size. These physical traits, reminiscent of a wolf pup, were inadvertently selected for during the long process of coexistence with humans. Behaviorally, neoteny manifested in a number of crucial ways. Adult dogs retained a playful and dependent nature, a stark contrast to the independent, territorial behavior of adult wolves. A mature wolf, for instance, would be highly unlikely to exhibit the same level of curiosity or docility as an adult dog. The retention of puppy-like curiosity, a high capacity for learning, and a willingness to engage in social interaction with humans were all traits that were favored by the pressures of cohabitation. The dog's capacity for lifelong social learning is a direct result of this neotenic process. Genetic and hormonal studies provide a deeper understanding of this phenomenon. The selection for lower aggression and a more docile temperament led to a reduction in stress hormones like adrenaline and cortisol. This hormonal shift is directly linked to the physical manifestations of domestication syndrome, including changes in coat color, floppy ears, and curly tails. These traits, while seemingly unrelated to a more docile temperament, are a byproduct of a broader hormonal change that affects development. This selection for neotenic traits was not a conscious human decision to breed for cuteness. Rather, it was a passive process. The wolves that were less fearful and more docile were the ones that survived and reproduced, and their juvenile characteristics, both physical and behavioral, were carried into adulthood. The result was a new kind of canid, one that was not only genetically predisposed to coexist with humans, but was also biologically programmed to be a lifelong companion. The birth of neoteny was a biological revolution that created a creature that would remain a pup in both body and mind, a living testament to a shared evolutionary history. The integration of the proto-dog into human hunting strategies marks a significant and quantifiable shift in the human-canine relationship, moving from passive coexistence to active, mutualistic partnership. This development was not an instantaneous discovery, but a gradual realization of the proto-dog's unique capabilities. While the initial benefit was a clean camp and an early warning system, humans soon began to understand the potential of these animals in the pursuit of game. Historical and anthropological evidence suggests that the proto-dog's first value to the hunt was its role as a tracker. Its superior sense of smell and endurance allowed it to follow wounded game over long distances, a task that was far more difficult and time-consuming for humans. The ability to track a wounded animal to its final resting place drastically reduced the risk of losing a valuable kill, increasing the efficiency and success rate of human hunting parties. This contribution was a direct result of the proto-dog's ancestral hunting instincts, now channeled in a way that benefited both species. The proto-dog also introduced a new element of tactical advantage to the hunt. Unlike wolves, who operate in coordinated packs to take down large prey, the proto-dog's presence was more of a disruptive force. By barking and chasing, they could flush out smaller game from dense thickets or drive larger animals into ambushes set by human hunters. This method, a form of active disruption, was a new hunting strategy that was a departure from the traditional human reliance on patience and stealth. The fossil record supports this theory of a shared hunting life. Archaeological sites have revealed the remains of both humans and proto-dogs in close proximity to the butchering sites of large game, indicating that the animals were present during the final stages of the hunt. Furthermore, skeletal remains of proto-dogs have shown healed injuries consistent with a life of active hunting, reinforcing their role as participants rather than just scavengers. This partnership had a profound effect on human societies. The ability to track and flush out game would have increased caloric returns, leading to greater population stability and growth. It also initiated a new layer of social complexity, as the management and care of these proto-dogs became an essential part of the community's responsibilities. The dog's first walk was not a leisurely stroll. It was a purposeful journey that solidified a partnership that would forever change the course of human history. The development of a fully symbiotic relationship between humans and proto-dogs was a gradual process built upon a foundation of mutual benefit and resource exchange. This was not a one-sided arrangement, but a two-way street, where each species provided a distinct set of advantages to the other. Humans offered food security and a degree of protection from larger, more dangerous predators. The proto-dogs, in return, provided labor, companionship, and a new dimension of hunting efficacy. This dynamic led to a profound interdependence that was a precursor to the modern human-dog bond. Historical and genetic evidence shows that this alliance was formalized over time. As humans transitioned from a purely nomadic lifestyle to a more settled one, the proto-dog's role became more defined. The consistent provision of food scraps and shelter, particularly during harsh winter months, was a powerful incentive for the canids to remain in the human orbit. This caloric and thermal security was a significant evolutionary advantage, as it reduced the risk of starvation and exposure. In return, the proto-dogs began to provide a more active form of aid in the hunt, going beyond simple tracking. Their ability to herd and corner game was a new, valuable skill that was integrated into human hunting strategies. The archaeological record supports the theory of a shared economy. The remains of proto-dogs at butchering sites are often found with signs of wear on their teeth, consistent with a diet of both raw and cooked bone, indicating they were given access to valuable parts of a kill. Furthermore, the skeletal remains of humans and proto-dogs are found in communal burial sites, suggesting a deep-seated bond that was recognized socially and culturally. These shared graves are a tangible record of a relationship that had moved beyond mere pragmatism and into the realm of social and spiritual importance. This mutual alliance had a profound effect on both species. For humans, the partnership with dogs led to more efficient hunting and a greater degree of security. contributing to population growth and stability. For the dogs, it led to the specialized traits of domestication, from a less aggressive temperament to a more gracile physical form. This was the point where the wolf truly began to transform into the dog, a creature that was no longer just a scavenger, but a vital and valued partner in human survival. The shared journey of humans and dogs across the Beringia land bridge stands as a singular event in the history of global migration. During the late Pleistocene and early Holocene, a land bridge spanning the Bering Strait connected Asia and North America, facilitating the movement of flora, fauna, and critically, human populations. Archaeological and paleogenetic evidence confirms that dogs were present during this initial peopling of the Americas. Their very footprints are testament to their role as active participants in this epic migratory odyssey. The presence of dogs was not a passive accompaniment, but a strategic asset. The unforgiving environment of the land bridge, a vast, cold tundra, presented immense challenges for survival. Dogs served as crucial pack animals, their physical strength and endurance utilized to carry essential supplies, reducing the burden on human carriers. Their ability to navigate rugged terrain and endure harsh climatic conditions made them invaluable logistical partners. This function as a beast of burden represents a new, formalized role in the human-canine alliance, a departure from their earlier roles as sentinels or simple hunting aids. Furthermore, the dog's presence fundamentally altered the hunting dynamics in this new environment. As humans encountered new megafauna, the dog's capacity for tracking, cornering, and harassing large game proved to be a significant advantage. This was particularly vital as human hunting parties adapted to new prey species and unfamiliar territories. The dog's ability to work in tandem with humans, using their collective intelligence and strength, was a cornerstone of a new, highly effective subsistence strategy. The genetic record provides irrefutable proof of this shared migration. Genetic analysis of ancient dog remains found in North and South America shows a direct ancestral link to dogs from East Asia, confirming their arrival via the Bering Land Bridge. The genetic diversity of these early American dogs is a clear indicator of a significant population that made the journey, not just a few isolated individuals. This genetic founder effect created a unique lineage of dogs that would go on to diversify and populate the entire American continent. The bones of these early dogs, found at archaeological sites from Alaska to Chile, are a silent record of a partnership that enabled human expansion into the New World, a biological testament to a shared journey into the unknown. The transition from a nomadic hunter-gatherer existence to a sedentary agricultural lifestyle was a monumental shift in human history, and dogs played a fundamental role in its success. The domestication of plants and animals brought a new set of challenges that dogs were uniquely equipped to address. As humans settled in fixed locations and began cultivating crops and herding livestock, the dog's role expanded from a simple hunting aid to a vital member of a complex agricultural society. Archaeological and historical evidence confirms the dog's function as a guardian of both livestock and property. As humans accumulated wealth in the form of grain stores and domesticated animals, these resources became attractive targets for rival tribes and wild predators. The dog, with its inherent territorial instincts and alarm-barking behavior, served as an effective deterrent. Its presence on the periphery of settlements provided a crucial layer of security, protecting valuable assets and allowing humans to focus on the demands of cultivation and animal husbandry. This new, formalized role as a guardian was a direct evolution of its earlier function as a sentinel of the nomadic camp. Furthermore, the dog's presence fundamentally altered the dynamics of animal husbandry. Dogs, particularly those with a nascent herding instinct, were invaluable in managing and protecting livestock. Their ability to move herds, round up strays, and defend against predators was a new and indispensable skill that was formalized through selective breeding over many generations. This co-management of livestock was a cornerstone of the human-canine partnership in an agricultural context. The development of this new role is reflected in the archaeological record. The remains of dogs found at Neolithic sites are often in close proximity to pens and enclosures, suggesting a deliberate placement and purpose. The physical characteristics of these early dogs also began to show signs of specialization, with some remains indicating a larger, more robust build consistent with a role as a guardian, while others suggest a smaller, more agile form suitable for herding. The transition from a nomadic to a settled existence was not just a human story, it was a collaborative one, enabled and secured by the unique contributions of the dog. The role of the dog as a herding animal represents a specialized and intentional partnership that emerged directly from the needs of agricultural societies. This function was a departure from their earlier, more general roles and required the deliberate selection of specific, trainable behaviors. As humans domesticated livestock, particularly sheep and goats, the need to manage and protect these valuable assets created a new opportunity for the human-canine alliance. Anthropological and archaeological evidence shows that the first herding dogs were selected not for their aggression, but for their ability to control and move animals without resorting to violent attack. The most effective herding dogs exhibited a suppressed prey drive and a heightened instinct to stalk and harass, a behavior known as the eye. This innate ability to fixate on and control the movement of a herd was a key trait that was actively formalized through human selective breeding. Early herding dogs were essentially trained to inhibit the final phase of the predatory sequence, the kill, and instead channel that energy into a cooperative, controlled behavior. The development of this new role is reflected in the archaeological record. The remains of early herding dogs at Neolithic sites, such as those in the Fertile Crescent, often show a physical form that is smaller and more agile than the large guardian dogs. This physical specialization, a lean, athletic build, was a direct result of their new function, which required speed and endurance rather than brute force. The skeletal structure of these animals, when compared to wild wolves, is a clear indicator of this new human-influenced trajectory. Furthermore, the emergence of the herding dog had a profound effect on the economic and social structure of early agricultural communities. With the aid of dogs, a single human could effectively manage a much larger herd, leading to a significant increase in caloric returns and economic prosperity. The dog's ability to prevent strays and to protect the herd from predators reduced economic loss, contributing to the overall stability and growth of the community. This was a sophisticated, specialized partnership that was not a random outcome of domestication, but a deliberate act of co-management. The shepherd's helper was a product of intentional selection, a living tool that revolutionized the art of animal husbandry and solidified the dog's indispensable place in human society. The culmination of the domestication process was the final psychological and biological severing of the dog from its wild wolf ancestry. This was a profound, irreversible break, rendering the dog a dependent species fundamentally unsuited for a return to a wild existence. Unlike their ancestors, who were masters of the hunt and survival in a brutal environment, dogs had lost the essential skills and instincts necessary for self-sufficiency. This final stage of domestication was characterized by a loss of wildness in exchange for complete integration into human society. The key historical marker of this change is the dog's aversive relationship with the wild. While their proto-dog ancestors could still scavenge and fend for themselves, the fully domesticated dog became physiologically and behaviorally reliant on human-provided resources. This is evidenced by the dog's digestive system, which, with its increased production of amylase, became dependent on a human diet rich in carbohydrates. A dog reintroduced to the wild would struggle to survive on a purely carnivorous diet, a problem that would not have afflicted its wolf ancestors. Furthermore, the dog's social and psychological makeup had undergone a complete transformation. They had lost the intricate, hardwired social skills necessary to navigate a wolf pack hierarchy. A domesticated dog is ill-equipped to survive the complex territorial disputes and pack rivalries of the wild. Their neotenic traits, such as an adult's willingness to display submission or a lifelong dependency on a social group, are liabilities in a wild environment where aggression and independence are prerequisites for survival. The archaeological record provides a clear timeline for this final break. The remains of later period dogs are consistently found in close proximity to human settlements, with an absence of evidence that they were capable of surviving on their own. Their skeletal structure, while robust in some cases, was not suited for the sustained high-energy hunting required in the wild. This biological and behavioral dependency was a deliberate, albeit unintentional, byproduct of thousands of years of human selection. The dog, in essence, traded its ancestral freedom for the security and benefits of human companionship, becoming a new species defined by its symbiotic relationship with us. As human societies grew in complexity, the roles of their canine companions also began to specialize, moving beyond generalist utility to specific formalized functions. This specialization was a direct consequence of the agricultural revolution and the diversification of human labor. With a stable food supply and a sedentary lifestyle, humans had the time and resources to selectively breed dogs for specific tasks. This was not a passive process of coevolution, but a deliberate act of artificial selection that created a new category of working animals. The earliest of these specialized roles centered on the protection of livestock and property. The development of large-scale animal husbandry required a new kind of guardian, one that could live alongside herds and defend them from predators. These guardian dogs, such as the ancestors of the Anatolian shepherd and the Great Pyrenees, were bred for their size, strength, and a unique behavioral trait, a fierce loyalty to their flock and an innate suspicion of outsiders. Their primary function was not to hunt or herd, but to deter and confront threats, a job that was a clear departure from the earlier sentinel role. Concurrently, a different kind of dog was being selected for its herding abilities. These dogs, such as the forerunners of the Border Collie and the Shetland Sheepdog, were bred for intelligence, agility, and a suppressed prey drive. Their function was to control and move livestock without resorting to a kill bite. This required a sophisticated understanding of human commands and an ability to work in tandem with a shepherd, a partnership that was formalized over generations of selective breeding. These herding dogs were essentially living tools that revolutionized animal husbandry, allowing a single human to manage a much larger herd. Furthermore, as human societies grew more complex, dogs were bred for new roles entirely. The use of dogs as pack animals for trade and travel became commonplace. Their endurance and load-carrying capacity were invaluable assets in a pre-technological world. The skeletal remains of these early working dogs show a robust and muscular build, a physical testament to their role as laborers. This specialization of canine roles was a clear indicator of a new, deliberate phase in the domestication process. The dog, now fully integrated into human society, was no longer just a companion but a living tool, a specialist with a distinct title and purpose. The formal role of the watchdog represents a direct and specialized evolution of the dog's earlier function as a general-purpose sentinel. As human societies transitioned from nomadic camps to fixed settlements, the need for a dedicated round-the-clock guardian became paramount. The watchdog's primary function was not merely to alert to danger, but to actively deter and, if necessary, confront threats to property, livestock, and family. This was a deliberate act of artificial selection, where humans specifically bred for traits of aggression, territoriality, and an unwavering loyalty to a specific place or person. Archaeological and historical evidence indicates that the earliest watchdog breeds, such as the ancestors of the Molossian breeds of the ancient world, were physically imposing animals. Skeletal remains from sites across Eurasia show a larger, more robust build than their more gracile protodog predecessors. This physical specialization, a large body mass, powerful jaws, and a protective coat was a direct result of their new function, which required brute force and intimidation rather than agility or endurance. Their role was to be a living, breathing security system, a deterrent against both large predators and human rivals. Furthermore, the watchdog's social and psychological makeup was intentionally cultivated. Unlike herding dogs, which were bred for a suppressed prey drive, watchdogs were selected for a controlled aggression. Their primary loyalty was not to a herd, but to a territory. They were trained to patrol the boundaries of a homestead and to respond with force to any perceived threat. This psychological specialization was a clear departure from the more generalist roles of the early protodog. The emergence of the watchdog had a profound effect on the economic and social structure of early agricultural communities. The presence of a dedicated guard dog reduced the risk of theft and predation, providing a new layer of security for valuable assets. This protection was a key factor in the accumulation of wealth and the establishment of stable, permanent settlements. The watchdog was a product of intentional selection, a living weapon that was both a deterrent and a protector. Its existence was a testament to the new, deliberate phase of domestication, where the dog was no longer just a companion but a specialized tool, a guardian of our homes and our lives. The development of specialized hunting dogs represents a deliberate and highly focused phase of artificial selection that began after the initial domestication event. Unlike the generalist hunting capabilities of their proto-dog ancestors, these new canids were intentionally bred for specific, highly refined skills, from scent tracking to flushing game. This specialization was a direct response to the diversification of human hunting practices, which required different tools for different environments and prey. Archaeological and historical evidence indicates that the earliest of these specialized breeds were scent hounds. These dogs, such as the ancestors of the bloodhound and the coonhound, were selected for their extraordinary olfactory abilities and their single-minded focus on following a trail. Their physical form, long, pendulous ears, a loose jaw, and a powerful sense of smell, was the result of generations of selective breeding. Their primary function was not to kill but to track and locate wounded or elusive game, a task that was a direct and indispensable contribution to human subsistence. A different line of specialization emerged with the development of flushers and pointers. These dogs were bred for an entirely different suite of behaviors. Their task was to locate and drive out game from dense cover, forcing it into the open for human hunters. This required a suppressed prey drive and a heightened ability to read and respond to human commands. The physical characteristics of these breeds, a compact, muscular body and a boundless energy, were a direct result of their function. These dogs, such as the ancestors of the spaniels and retrievers, were living tools that revolutionized hunting in environments like forests and wetlands. Furthermore, dogs were bred for specific roles in the hunting of large game. The ancestors of the Mastiff and the Great Dane were used in the hunting of bears and wild boar. These dogs were selected for their sheer size, aggression, and physical strength. Their function was to corner and hold a large, dangerous animal until a human hunter could deliver a final blow. This was a high-risk, high-reward specialization that was a testament to the new, deliberate phase of domestication, where the dog was no longer just a partner, but a specialized living weapon. The dog's transition from a practical tool to a powerful cultural and spiritual symbol is a fundamental aspect of its domestication history. As human societies developed complex belief systems, dogs became imbued with meanings that transcended their physical roles as hunters or guardians. Their loyalty, keen senses, and a unique position between the human world and the wild made them ideal figures for myth and art, representing ideas of fidelity, protection, and the journey between life and death. Historical and mythological records from ancient civilizations provide extensive evidence for the dog's symbolic significance. In ancient Egypt, the jackal-headed god Anubis, a deity of the afterlife, was a powerful symbol of guidance and protection for souls on their journey to the underworld. The Egyptians revered dogs for their fidelity and their role in guarding the deceased, a belief that is reflected in the numerous dog burials found in close proximity to human tombs. Similarly, in ancient Greece, dogs were associated with deities like Hecate, the goddess of magic and crossroads, who was often depicted with canine companions. The dog's ability to move between the physical world and the spiritual realm made them natural symbols for a deity who governed liminal spaces. In other cultures, dogs were seen as divine messengers or guardians. In Norse mythology, the great hound Garma guarded the gates of hell, the underworld. His presence was a warning to those who would transgress the boundary between worlds. In Celtic folklore, hounds were often associated with healing and hunting, and were seen as companions to divine figures. These mythological roles were not arbitrary. They were a direct reflection of the dog's daily life as a protector and a companion. Its loyalty to its human master was a tangible, observable trait that was easily translated into a powerful symbol of unwavering fidelity. The dog's symbolic role was also solidified by its unique position as a domestic creature that retained a connection to the wild. This duality, a creature of human society that still possessed the instincts of its wild ancestors, made it a powerful symbol of the balance between order and chaos, civilization and nature. The dog, in its various forms, became a living representation of humanity's relationship with the untamed world. It was a tangible link to a wild past, a faithful companion in the present, and a symbolic guide to the unknown future. The Roman Empire's relationship with dogs was complex and highly stratified, reflecting the diverse and hierarchical nature of its society. Dogs were not a single category, but were differentiated by breed, purpose, and social status, serving a multitude of specialized roles from military assets to pampered companions. This period represents a key historical moment where the dog's role became more formalized, with specific breeds being developed for distinct functions within an advanced civilization. Historical and archaeological records, including mosaics, sculptures, and written texts, provide extensive evidence for this specialization. One of the most prominent roles was that of the Molossus, a large, powerful breed of dog used by the Roman army. These Molossians were a formidable military asset, employed as war dogs to break enemy formations, guard encampments, and serve as sentinels on the frontiers of the empire. The physical characteristics of these dogs, a massive, muscular build and a fierce temperament, were deliberately cultivated through selective breeding. Their military use was a testament to the new, formalized phase of domestication, where the dog was no longer just a partner, but a living weapon. At the opposite end of the social spectrum were the small, highly prized companion dogs of the Roman elite. The Maltese and other small breeds were popular among aristocratic women, serving as lapdogs and symbols of wealth and leisure. Their existence was a clear indicator of a society with enough surplus resources to support an animal purely for its companionship and aesthetic value. These dogs lived a life of luxury, often depicted in mosaics and frescoes, and their remains have been found in the lavish tombs of their owners, underscoring their social significance. Furthermore, dogs were utilized for a variety of other practical purposes. They were employed as hunting dogs for large game, as herd dogs for managing livestock, and as simple farm dogs for pest control. Roman legal codes even contained specific statutes pertaining to dogs, including laws about property damage and liability, which reflects their deep integration into the social and economic fabric of the empire. The dog's presence in every strata of Roman society, from the military to the domestic sphere, demonstrates a new level of specialized utility and social integration. The Roman world was a stage where the dog's multifaceted roles were formalized and celebrated. The evolution of the dog's role from a strictly utilitarian animal to a non-working companion is a powerful testament to the deepening human-canine bond. This shift, which is historically and anthropologically well documented, marks the point where dogs were valued not for what they could do, but for what they could be, a source of comfort, affection, and social support. This was a clear sign of a society with enough surplus wealth and leisure to support a creature purely for its emotional contributions. Archaeological evidence from ancient civilizations provides the earliest glimpses of this specialized companionship. In ancient Egypt and Rome, small lapdog breeds were favored by the elite. The remains of these dogs have been discovered in elaborate burials, often with their owners, and were sometimes mummified or interred with their own grave goods. This practice is a clear historical fact that indicates a profound emotional attachment that transcended the practical. The care and ritualistic burial of these animals signify their elevated status as valued members of the household, not just property. Furthermore, historical texts and art from these periods corroborate this trend. Mosaics, frescoes, and sculptures from Roman villas depict small dogs sitting on the laps of aristocratic women or lounging on couches, a visual record of their new role as pampered companions. The Greek philosopher Plato even commented on the dog's loyalty, referring to it as the true philosopher for its ability to love without reservation. This philosophical and artistic attention to the dog's emotional qualities is a clear sign of a new cultural understanding of the human-canine relationship. This development also had a biological component. The selective breeding for small size, docile temperament, and other non-utilitarian traits led to the proliferation of breeds like the Maltese and the Pomeranian. These dogs were not suited for hunting or guarding, but were bred specifically for their companionship qualities. This intentional artificial selection for emotional, rather than practical, traits was a key factor in the diversification of dog breeds, and a clear marker of the dog's full integration into human society. The cultivation of the faithful companion was the final step in the dog's long journey from the wild, solidifying its place as a cherished member of the family. The formalization of the dog's place in human society is powerfully demonstrated by its inclusion in ancient legal codes and decrees. This was a clear historical marker that dogs were no longer just wild animals or simple property, but had a defined social and legal standing. This legal framework governed their rights, responsibilities, and the liabilities of their owners, a clear sign of their deep integration into the social and economic fabric of ancient civilizations. Historical and legal records from civilizations such as the Romans and the Babylonians provide concrete examples of this legal status. The Code of Hammurabi, one of the earliest known legal codes from Mesopotamia, contains statutes that address the liabilities of dog owners for property damage. For instance, if a dog bit a person, the owner could be held responsible and required to pay compensation. This legal precedent is a clear historical fact that recognizes the dog as a member of society for which its owner bears responsibility. In the Roman world, dogs were subject to a sophisticated legal system. The Justinian Code, a compilation of Roman law, categorized dogs into different types based on their function, such as hunting dogs, guard dogs, and watch dogs. The law made a distinction between the actions of a wild animal and the actions of a domestic animal, holding the owner liable for the latter's behavior. For example, if a dog caused injury or damage, the owner could be sued under the law of damages. Furthermore, the theft of a dog was considered a form of property crime, punishable by law, a clear indicator of the animal's economic and social value. The legal status of dogs also extended to their protection. Ancient laws provided for penalties for the mistreatment of dogs, reflecting a cultural and legal recognition of their welfare. The Greek and Roman philosophers, who commented on the dog's loyalty, were not alone in this sentiment. It was codified into law. The act of harming a dog was not just a moral wrong, but a legal one, punishable by the state. This legal framework solidified the dog's role in society. It was a clear historical development that moved the dog from a wild animal to a creature with a defined place in the human world, a living testament to a partnership that was now governed by law. The expansion of the dog's genetic and cultural lineage across the globe was fundamentally enabled by ancient trade networks, most notably the Silk Road. This network of trade routes, which connected east and west, served as a crucial conduit for the exchange of not only goods and ideas, but also living animals. As merchants, travelers, and armies traversed these routes, they brought their dogs with them, leading to a profound cross-pollination of genetic and behavioral traits. The Silk Road mutts of this era were not a single breed, but a diverse and varied population that embodied the genetic and cultural mixing of their environment. Genetic and archaeological evidence confirms that the Silk Road was a key factor in the global diversification of dog breeds. Analysis of dog DNA from modern and ancient populations shows a clear pattern of gene flow from east to west, with genetic markers from Asian dogs appearing in European lineages, and vice versa. This genetic exchange was not a single event, but a continuous process that occurred over centuries, as different groups of travelers brought their dogs to new regions. This widespread gene flow contributed to the vast diversity of dog breeds we see today, as new combinations of traits were created through hybridization. Furthermore, the Silk Road facilitated the spread of new specialized roles for dogs. As dogs from different regions met and interbred, their unique abilities were combined, creating new, more adaptable working animals. For instance, the herding dogs of Central Asia, with their endurance and protective instincts, were bred with the sled dogs of Siberia, leading to new breeds with a unique combination of traits. The archaeological record, with its evidence of diverse dog populations along the Silk Road, is a clear historical fact that supports this theory of cross-pollination. This exchange also had a cultural impact. As dogs moved along the trade routes, their symbolic and social roles were also exchanged. The companion dogs of the East were introduced to the West, where they became a popular status symbol for the elite. The fierce guard dogs of the West were introduced to the East, where their protective qualities were prized. This cultural exchange led to a new shared understanding of the dog's place in human society, one that was no longer limited by geographical boundaries. The Silk Road was more than a trade route. It was a living, breathing laboratory for the diversification of the human-canine partnership. The age of specialization in canine history marks a clear and deliberate shift from natural selection to a process of intensive, human-directed artificial selection. As human societies transitioned from agrarian communities to complex urban civilizations, the generalized utility of the early proto-dog was no longer sufficient. This era, spanning from antiquity through the medieval period, was defined by the intentional breeding of distinct dog types for specific, highly refined purposes. This was not a random process, but a calculated effort to create living tools tailored to meet the new demands of an increasingly sophisticated society. Historical and archaeological evidence confirms that this specialization was geographically and culturally diverse. In ancient Rome, for instance, the dog was categorized into distinct types based on function: the Canis fanaticus, hunting dog; the Canis pastoralis, herding dog; and the Canis familiaris, companion dog. The Roman agriculturalist Varro wrote extensively about the importance of selecting dogs based on their temperament and physical traits for specific tasks, a clear indicator of a methodical breeding practice. This level of intentionality represents a departure from the earlier, more passive forms of domestication. Furthermore, the physical characteristics of these new specialized breeds were a direct result of their function. The powerful, heavy-boned mastiffs of the Roman world were bred for their use in war and as guardians. Conversely, the swift and agile greyhounds were meticulously selected for their speed and visual acuity in hunting. In other parts of the world, such as in Central Asia, herding dogs were bred for their endurance and protective instincts, while in the colder northern regions, dogs were selected for their strength and stamina as sled dogs. This specialization had a profound effect on the genetic diversity of the dog population. As breeders focused on a narrow set of traits, genetic bottlenecks occurred, leading to the creation of distinct breeds with a shared morphological and behavioral blueprint. The resulting fragmentation of the dog genome into discrete lineages is a hard historical fact that speaks to the power of human-directed selection. The dog was no longer just a companion. It was a specialized tool, a product of human ingenuity, and a living testament to the new demands of a complex world. The development of herding breeds marks a highly specialized and deliberate phase in the evolution of the dog's relationship with humans. This function was a direct response to the needs of the agricultural revolution, where a growing reliance on livestock as a stable food source created a demand for a new kind of working animal. Unlike their predatory ancestors, herding dogs were intentionally selected for a suite of behaviors that inhibited the final aggressive phase of the predatory sequence, the kill bite, while retaining the earlier, instinctual behaviors of stalking and chasing. Archaeological and genetic evidence confirms that this specialization was a product of artificial, not natural, selection. The oldest herding breeds, such as the ancestors of the Border Collie and the Shetland Sheepdog, were meticulously bred for their intelligence, agility, and a unique behavioral trait known as the eye. This innate ability to fixate on and control the movement of livestock without resorting to physical force was the key to their utility. Their primary function was to move and manage herds, a task that was a complete departure from the wild wolf's behavior. The physical characteristics of these early herding dogs were a direct result of their function. Their skeletal remains from Neolithic sites show a more agile and lean build than their larger, more robust guardian counterparts. Their physical form was optimized for speed and endurance, allowing them to traverse long distances and work for extended periods. This physical specialization athletic build was a direct result of their new function, which required speed and endurance rather than brute force. Furthermore, the emergence of the herding dog had a profound effect on the economic and social structure of early agricultural communities. With the aid of these dogs, a single human could effectively manage a much larger herd, leading to a significant increase in caloric returns and economic prosperity. The dog's ability to prevent strays and to protect the herd from predators reduced economic loss, contributing to the overall stability and growth of the community. This was a sophisticated, specialized partnership that was not a random outcome of domestication, but a deliberate act of co-management. The herding dog was a living tool, a product of human ingenuity that revolutionized the art of animal husbandry and solidified the dog's indispensable place in human society. The development of sighthounds represents a deliberate and highly focused phase of canine specialization, rooted in the human need for speed and efficiency in hunting open country prey. Unlike breeds selected for scent or herding abilities, sighthounds were bred almost exclusively for two key traits: exceptional vision and an explosive burst of speed. This was a clear act of artificial selection, where a specific suite of physical and behavioral characteristics were meticulously cultivated over millennia. Archaeological evidence and ancient art provide a historical record of these elegant breeds. Images of sighthound-like dogs, with their distinctive slender bodies and long legs, have been found in ancient Egyptian tomb paintings dating back over 4,000 years. These depictions show dogs working in tandem with human hunters to pursue fast-moving desert game like gazelles and hares. Their presence in royal art and burials signifies their elevated status, not just as tools, but as valued companions of the elite. Furthermore, their physical characteristics were a direct result of their function. The skeletal remains of these early sighthounds show a long, narrow skull, a deep chest, and an elongated back body plan, optimized for a double suspension gallop where the dog's legs extend completely, allowing for a top-end speed that rivals that of a racehorse. This physical specialization was a biological adaptation to their role as coursers, running down prey by sight in open, flat terrain. Genetically, sighthounds are one of the most ancient and distinct lineages of dogs. Their deep genetic roots are a testament to the long history of intentional breeding for a specific purpose. The suppression of the wolf's instinct to stalk and chase in favor of an instinct to pursue by sight was a key factor in their development. Their training and utility were based on visual cues, a fundamental departure from the olfactory-based hunting strategies of other breeds. The noble sighthound was a product of human ingenuity, a living testament to a sophisticated form of selective breeding that was both a practical tool and a symbol of aristocratic leisure. The history of terriers and earth dogs represents a unique and highly specialized chapter in canine domestication, driven by the specific needs of early agricultural communities to control burrowing vermin and predators. This was a deliberate act of artificial selection focused on creating a dog with a set of traits fundamentally different from those of sighthounds or herding dogs. Their purpose was not to pursue prey over long distances or to manage livestock, but to locate and engage with animals in confined underground spaces, Archaeological and historical evidence confirms that these breeds were developed in northern Europe and the British Isles, where a reliance on a small hardy dog to hunt foxes, badgers, and other burrowing animals became essential for protecting livestock and small game. The term terrier itself is derived from the Latin word terra, meaning earth, a direct reference to their primary function as earth dogs. This etymological fact is a clear historical marker of their specialized role. The physical characteristics of these breeds were a direct result of their function. They were bred to be small, compact, and low to the ground, with a powerful muscular body that allowed them to navigate tight tunnels and to engage with formidable opponents in close quarters. Their jaws were powerful, and their teeth were designed for a firm, tenacious grip. This physical specialization was a biological adaptation to their role as vermin hunters. Behaviorally, terriers were selected for a suite of traits that would have been undesirable in most other breeds. Their independence, high energy, and a tenacious, sometimes aggressive, temperament were all actively cultivated. A terrier's instinct to go to ground, to enter a burrow and confront a quarry, is a testament to a highly focused form of selective breeding. This was a direct contrast to the suppressed prey drives of herding dogs and the long-distance pursuit of sighthounds. The terrier's training and utility were based on a combination of visual and olfactory cues, a fundamental departure from the strategies of other breeds. The terrier and earth dog were a product of human ingenuity, a living tool that was both a practical solution to an agricultural problem and a symbol of a tenacious, unwavering spirit. The development of draft dogs represents a highly specialized phase of canine domestication, driven by the need for a non-mechanized source of power for transportation and labor. This was a deliberate act of artificial selection that focused on creating a dog with immense physical strength, endurance, and a docile temperament that was amenable to working in harness. This specialization was a clear response to the logistical challenges of pre-industrial societies, particularly in regions where horses and other draft animals were scarce or ill-suited to the environment. Historical and archaeological evidence confirms that these dogs were used for a variety of heavy labor tasks. In parts of Europe and Asia, large, powerful breeds, like the ancestors of the Bernese mountain dog, the Saint Bernard, and the Newfoundland, were bred specifically to pull carts, haul goods, and assist in agricultural work. Their physical characteristics were a direct result of their function. A large, muscular body, a deep chest, and a powerful skeletal structure that could withstand the strains of heavy labor. This physical specialization was a biological adaptation to their role as beasts of burden. Furthermore, the temperament of these dogs was intentionally cultivated. Unlike the aggressive nature of a watchdog or the independence of a terrier, draft dogs were selected for their calm, patient, and cooperative disposition. They were required to work in harness, often alongside other animals, and to be reliable in crowded or stressful environments. Their loyalty was not to a territory, but to their handler and their assigned task. This behavioral specialization was a fundamental departure from the predatory instincts of their wolf ancestors and a testament to the power of human-directed selection. The use of dogs as draft animals had a profound effect on the economic structure of these communities. Their ability to pull heavy loads over difficult terrain provided a crucial logistical advantage, enabling trade, the transport of agricultural goods, and a new dimension of labor. The existence of these dogs was a testament to the creative solutions of pre-industrial societies, where a domesticated animal was not just a companion or a hunter, but a living engine of commerce and labor. The emergence of small, non-working dog breeds represents a deliberate and highly focused phase of artificial selection, driven by the social and aesthetic needs of elite society. This was not a response to a practical problem, but a conscious effort to create a dog that served a singular function: companionship and status. The existence of these breeds, such as the ancestors of the Maltese and the Shih Tzu, is a clear historical marker of a society with enough wealth and leisure to support animals purely for their emotional and symbolic value. Historical and archaeological evidence from ancient civilizations, particularly in Egypt, Rome, and Imperial China, provides a detailed record of this specialization. In royal courts and among the aristocracy, small non-working dogs were bred to be lap companions. Their diminutive size, docile temperament, and often exotic appearance were deliberately cultivated through selective breeding. These dogs, often depicted in royal art and buried with their owners, were not just pets but living symbols of luxury and privilege. Their presence in a household signified a level of wealth that transcended basic subsistence. Furthermore, these dogs often served as an extension of their owner's social status. The gift of a small, exotic dog from a foreign land was a diplomatic gesture of immense value, and the possession of such an animal was a powerful signal of a person's political connections and wealth. The skeletal remains of these dogs, often found in elaborate tombs, are a testament to their social significance. This practice is a clear historical fact that indicates a profound emotional and cultural attachment that transcended the practical. The biological and behavioral characteristics of these breeds were a direct result of their function. They were selected for their small size and a temperament that was amenable to living in close proximity to humans. The aggression and independence of a working dog were deliberately bred out in favor of a playful and dependent nature. This behavioral specialization was a fundamental departure from the functional roles of other breeds, and a testament to the power of human-directed selection for purely non-utilitarian traits. The creation of these lapdogs was the final step in the dog's long journey from the wild, solidifying its place not just as a companion, but as a cherished member of the royal family. The domestication of the dog was not a single monolithic event, but a process that unfolded independently across different civilizations, each shaping the animal to fit its unique cultural, environmental, and aesthetic needs. This created a vast tapestry of canine diversity, a global canvas of breeds that are a direct reflection of the societies that produce them. The dog, in this sense, was a living tool that was molded by the hands of countless cultures around the world. Historical and archaeological evidence from civilizations as geographically distant as ancient China and Mesoamerica provides a detailed record of this independent specialization. In Imperial China, for example, the dog was meticulously bred for a variety of functions, from palace guards to small prized lapdogs like the ancestors of the Pekingese and the pug. These dogs were not just pets, they were living symbols of imperial power and wealth. Their exotic appearance and diminutive size, a testament to the sophistication of Chinese court culture. In contrast, the dogs of the Aztec and Mayan civilizations were bred for entirely different purposes. The Xoloitzcuintli, or Mexican hairless dog, was a revered breed, associated with the god Xolotl and believed to guide the souls of the dead through the underworld. These dogs, prized for their unique hairless trait, were also used for their warmth and for their meat in ritualistic ceremonies. Their existence is a clear historical marker of a society with a distinct set of spiritual and cultural beliefs that were reflected in their animal companions. Furthermore, in the Arctic regions, dogs were selectively bred for their endurance and strength as sled dogs. Breeds like the ancestors of the Siberian Husky and the Alaskan Malamute were indispensable for transportation and survival in a harsh, unforgiving environment. Their thick coats, powerful builds, and strong pack instincts were all a direct result of their function. These dogs were not a luxury, but a necessity, a living tool that made human life possible in a region where other animals could not survive. This global diversification of dog breeds is a clear historical fact that demonstrates the power of human-directed selection in different contexts. The dog, in its various forms, became a living representation of the cultures that created it, a testament to a shared, global history of human-canine partnership. The modern era of dog breeding is defined by the establishment of kennel clubs and the formalization of the purebred dog. This was a deliberate and systematic effort, beginning in the Victorian era, to standardize dog breeds and create a clear distinction between a dog with a verifiable lineage and a mixed-breed animal. This movement was not a continuation of earlier specialization, but a new, organized phase of artificial selection driven by a desire for uniformity, predictability, and a new kind of aesthetic value. Historical records confirm that the first modern kennel club, the Kennel Club in England, was founded in 1873. Its primary purpose was to formalize the rules for dog shows and to create a registry of dogs with documented pedigrees. This act of institutionalizing dog breeding had a profound effect on the canine population. As breeders began to focus on creating dogs that conformed to a specific breed standard, the diversity within individual breeds was often reduced in favor of a uniform appearance and temperament. The emphasis shifted from a dog's working ability to its aesthetic conformity to a set of predefined standards. Furthermore, the concept of the purebred dog had a profound effect on the social and economic status of dogs. A dog with a verifiable pedigree was seen as a symbol of its owner's status and wealth, a clear departure from the earlier, more utilitarian roles of working dogs. Dog shows, which became a popular pastime of the wealthy, were a new social stage where the value of a dog was determined not by its hunting or herding ability, but by its conformity to a breed standard. The rise of the Kennel Club also had a direct impact on the genetic makeup of the dog population. As breeders focused on a narrow gene pool, they inadvertently created a number of hereditary health problems that are now common in many modern dog breeds. This was a clear example of the unintended consequences of intensive artificial selection. The dog, in this new era, was not just a companion or a tool. It was a living commodity, a product of a new, industrialized form of animal husbandry. The rise of the Kennel Club was a pivotal historical moment that forever changed the relationship between humans and dogs. The dog's role in modern military and police forces is a direct continuation and a highly specialized evolution of its ancient function as a protector and a hunter. This was not a new development, but a reformalization of ancient roles, adapted to the technological demands of modern warfare and law enforcement. The dog, in this new era, became a living tool, a specialist with a unique set of skills that no machine could replicate. Historical records confirm that the military use of dogs was widespread in both World War I and World War II. During World War I, dogs were used as messengers, carrying vital dispatches between units, and as sentries, their superior senses providing an early warning of enemy patrols. Their speed and ability to traverse difficult terrain made them invaluable assets in the trenches, where human messengers were often a target. This role as a messenger was a new, highly specialized function that was a direct result of the logistical challenges of modern warfare. In World War II, the dog's role expanded even further. Dogs were used for a variety of tasks, from mine detection to search and rescue. Their olfactory abilities, which are thousands of times more acute than a human's, made them invaluable in detecting buried explosives and locating wounded soldiers. The use of dogs for mine detection, for instance, saved countless human lives and was a new, highly specialized function that was a direct result of the technological advances in warfare. In the post-war era, the dog's role in law enforcement became formalized. Police forces around the world began to use dogs for a variety of tasks, including patrol, narcotics detection, and bomb disposal. The German Shepherd, with its intelligence, trainability, and protective instincts, became the breed of choice for these new roles. This was a deliberate act of artificial selection, where a specific breed was chosen for its suitability for a set of highly demanding tasks. The use of dogs for narcotics and bomb detection, for instance, is a new, highly specialized function that is a direct result of the technological advances in crime and terrorism. The dog's continued role in military and police forces is a powerful historical fact that speaks to its enduring value. The dog, in its various forms, became a living tool, a specialist with a unique set of skills that no machine could replicate. Its loyalty, courage, and keen senses were not just a relic of the past, but a vital asset in the modern world. The development of the dog's role as a healer and service animal is a profound modern chapter in its history, signifying a new understanding of the human-canine bond. This specialized function transcends the traditional roles of hunting or guarding, positioning the dog as a source of physical assistance and psychological support. This was a deliberate process of artificial selection, where specific traits such as intelligence, trainability, and a calm, stable temperament were meticulously cultivated to aid individuals with disabilities and health challenges. Historical documentation confirms the formal use of dogs as service animals began in the early 20th century. A pivotal moment was the establishment of the first guide dog school in Germany, created in response to the numerous soldiers blinded during World War I. These dogs were trained to navigate obstacles and provide mobility for their human handlers, a highly specialized role that granted a new level of independence. The German Shepherd, known for its intelligence and protective nature, became the primary breed for these demanding tasks, a choice that highlights the power of intentional selection for specific aptitudes. The post-war era saw this function expand into the field of therapy. Dogs were introduced into hospitals, nursing homes, and educational settings to provide emotional comfort. The presence of a dog was found to have tangible physiological effects, such as lowering blood pressure and reducing stress levels in patients. This use of dogs in therapeutic capacities marked a new science-based application of the human-animal bond, demonstrating the dog's capacity to affect human well-being on a profound level. In recent decades, the dog's service roles have diversified with technological advancements in medicine and an increased understanding of canine abilities. Dogs are now trained to perform complex medical tasks, such as detecting the onset of epileptic seizures, alerting to changes in blood sugar for diabetic patients, and assisting individuals with severe allergies by sensing allergens. These highly specialized functions are a testament to the dog's cognitive abilities and trainability. The dog's evolution into a healer is a clear historical fact, demonstrating its enduring value not just as a worker or companion, but as a crucial partner in human health and well-being. The 20th century marks a pivotal and dramatic shift in the human-canine relationship, as dogs transitioned from being primarily working animals to cherished family members and household pets. This transformation was a direct consequence of socio-economic and cultural changes, including urbanization, a decline in rural living, and the rise of the middle class. The dog, once valued for its utility in hunting, guarding, or herding, was now prized for its companionship and its role within the family unit. Historical and sociological evidence confirms this dramatic change. Prior to the 20th century, the majority of the canine population, particularly in Western societies, were working animals with a clear functional purpose. Farm dogs, hunting hounds, and watchdogs were a common sight, but the concept of a dog as a non-working member of the family was a luxury afforded to only the wealthy elite. The advent of the Industrial Revolution and the subsequent move from rural to urban environments fundamentally altered this dynamic. As living spaces became smaller and the need for working dogs declined, the dog's role as a companion became paramount. Furthermore, the rise of the middle class and an increase in disposable income created a new market for dogs as pets. This led to an unprecedented diversification of breeds, with a focus on size, temperament, and appearance rather than working ability. Dog ownership became a symbol of middle-class prosperity and leisure, a clear departure from the earlier, more utilitarian roles of working dogs. This was a deliberate process of artificial selection, where a dog's value was determined not by its labor, but by its ability to provide emotional support and companionship. The psychological and emotional bond between humans and dogs also deepened in this period. The dog's unique ability to read and respond to human emotions, a trait honed by thousands of years of coevolution, made it an ideal companion in a new, more emotionally complex world. The dog, with its unconditional love and loyalty, became a source of stability and comfort in a rapidly changing society. The dog's evolution from work to family was a dramatic historical fact that forever changed its relationship with humans. The dog was no longer just a companion or a tool. It was a cherished member of the family, a living testament to a partnership that had now fully transcended its utilitarian origins. The profound emotional connection between humans and dogs, often described as man's best friend, is not merely a cultural construct, but is rooted in a deep scientific and psychological foundation. This unique bond, forged over millennia of coevolution, is a testament to the dog's unparalleled ability to read and respond to human emotions, a skill honed by its long history of living within human social structures. This was not a passive outcome of domestication, but an active process of mutual adaptation, with both species evolving to better communicate and cooperate. Scientific evidence, particularly in the fields of ethology and neuroscience, provides a clear explanation for this connection. Studies have shown that when humans and dogs interact in a positive way, both species experience a release of oxytocin, a hormone associated with social bonding and affection. This hormonal feedback loop is a powerful biological mechanism that reinforces the emotional connection between humans and their canine companions. This is a clear historical fact that indicates a biological basis for a relationship that was once thought to be purely cultural. Furthermore, the dog's cognitive abilities, particularly its unique capacity for social learning, are a key factor in this bond. Dogs have an innate ability to interpret human body language, facial expressions, and vocal tones, a skill that is not present in wolves, regardless of how they are raised. This ability allows dogs to understand human intentions and to respond appropriately, making them ideal partners in a wide range of activities. This cognitive specialization is a direct result of thousands of years of selective pressure for traits that made a dog a more effective companion. The psychological benefits of the human-canine bond are also well documented. Studies have shown that dog ownership can reduce stress, lower blood pressure, and increase a sense of well-being. For a human, the presence of a loyal, affectionate companion can provide a sense of stability and comfort in a complex and rapidly changing world. For the dog, the relationship provides food, shelter, and a sense of belonging within a social group. The enduring bond between humans and dogs is a testament to a shared journey, a partnership that has now transcended its utilitarian origins and become a source of profound emotional and psychological fulfillment. The relationship between humans and dogs is a unique and unbroken chain of coexistence that stretches from the late Pleistocene to the present day. This long-term partnership, spanning over 40,000 years, is a testament to the power of co-evolution, where two distinct species adapted to each other's needs and social structures. The journey from the scavenging wolves of the Ice Age tundra to the cherished family dogs of today is a continuous, irreversible process of mutual transformation, a historical fact that is etched in the DNA of both species. The initial phase of this chain was marked by a state of pragmatic, transactional coexistence. The proto-wolves that lingered on the periphery of human camps gained a new, reliable food source, while humans benefited from a passive security system. This early stage was not driven by emotion, but by a simple ecological calculus of risk versus reward. The dogs that survived and reproduced were those with a temperament that allowed them to navigate this new environment, a physiological change that was the first link in the chain of domestication. As human societies grew more complex, the dog's role evolved, creating new and stronger links in the chain. With the advent of agriculture, dogs became indispensable partners in herding, guarding, and hunting. This was a deliberate process of artificial selection, where a dog's value was determined by its utility. The development of specialized breeds, from the powerful mastiff to the swift sighthound, was a direct result of this new, formalized partnership. This era was a clear historical fact that demonstrated the dog's full integration into the economic and social fabric of human society. The modern era has seen the final transformation of the dog's role, as it moved from a working animal to a cherished family member. The dog's capacity for emotional support, a skill honed by thousands of years of coevolution, has made it an ideal companion in a new, more emotionally complex world. The enduring bond between humans and dogs, a relationship rooted in a shared journey, is a living testament to a partnership that has now transcended its utilitarian origins and become a source of profound emotional and psychological fulfillment. The unbroken chain of coexistence, from the scavenging wolves of the tundra to the family dogs of today, is a historical fact that defines the very essence of the human-canine relationship. The story of the dog is not merely a narrative of domestication, but a testament to one of the most remarkable evolutionary victories in the history of the planet. By adapting to and befriending our species, the dog has become one of the most successful and widespread mammals on Earth. Its population, estimated to be in the hundreds of millions, spans every continent and every human society, from the frozen Arctic to the bustling metropolis. This global presence is a direct result of its unique partnership with humans. The dog's success is a historical fact rooted in a simple but profound strategy: co-evolution. While other species, from the mammoth to the dodo, have gone extinct in the face of human expansion, the dog not only survived but thrived. It did so by making itself indispensable to human survival. Its roles as a hunter, a guardian, a herder, and a companion were so integral to human success that its own survival was guaranteed. The dog, in essence, outsourced its own survival to the most dominant species on the planet. This evolutionary victory is a clear historical fact that is etched in the genetic and behavioral record of the dog. Its physiological adaptations, from the ability to digest starches to its neotenic traits, are a biological testament to a new, more successful path of evolution. The dog's capacity for social learning, its ability to read human emotions, and its willingness to cooperate are all traits that are a direct result of its long history of living with us. These are not just behavioral quirks. They are the keys to its global success. The dog's story is a clear and powerful counter-narrative to the idea that human expansion is an inevitable force of destruction for other species. It is a story of a partnership that benefited both sides, where one species' success became a guarantee for the other's survival. The dog's ultimate victory is not a triumph of brute force, but a triumph of adaptation, intelligence, and friendship. The narrative of human and dog coexistence is not a closed chapter, but an ongoing story of mutual evolution that continues to unfold. The relationship that began as a pragmatic alliance of survival has transformed into a profound interspecies partnership, and its future trajectory is a subject of ongoing scientific and anthropological inquiry. The dog's capacity for adaptation, a trait that was its key to survival in the Paleolithic, remains a driving force in its continued evolution alongside humans. The modern era presents a new set of challenges and opportunities for this relationship. As human societies become more urbanized and technologically advanced, the traditional working roles of dogs are declining. This has led to a new form of selection, where dogs are increasingly valued for their psychological and emotional contributions rather than their physical labor. The breeding of dogs for specific temperaments, a calm and affectionate nature, and a suitability for a sedentary indoor lifestyle is a clear historical fact that is defining the next phase of domestication. The dog's continued existence is now inextricably linked to its ability to provide companionship and a sense of emotional well-being. Furthermore, the scientific understanding of the human-canine bond is leading to new forms of interaction. Genetic research, for instance, is not only shedding light on the dog's past, but is also being used to create healthier breeds and to understand the biological basis of their unique abilities. The use of dogs in medical detection, therapy, and psychological support is a new, specialized function that is a direct result of this advanced scientific knowledge. The dog, in this new era, is not just a companion but a partner in human health and well-being. The future of this relationship will likely be defined by a new kind of symbiosis. As dogs become more integrated into our lives, our own social and cultural norms are being shaped by their presence. The dog, in its various forms, is a constant reminder of our shared past and a testament to the enduring power of a partnership that was born in the tundra and continues to flourish in the metropolis. The journey from wolf to dog is not over. It is a living, breathing story that is still being written, one that will define a shared future for both species.